Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I'm Esko from Qentinel, and in this talk I'll share some views about the trends and future perspectives of software automation. Software is really a strange animal among all industries. Software has enabled innovation faster than ever, as well as a global go-to-market faster than ever. The imperative of speed has dominated the world of software since the very beginning. It seems, however, that whenever a new software innovation enables more speed in business, that same speed will create even more pressure to further accelerate what you can do with software. This also means that software and IT are increasingly viewed as an instrumental part of the business rather than a separate enabler. Automation, obviously, is a necessity if you want to accelerate. DevOps, as we all know, is the hottest thing that we currently believe will help accelerate value creation with software. And in this presentation, I'll very much look at the world through the lens of DevOps because it provides multiple interesting perspectives into what may be happening or will be happening in the near future. DevOps has already fundamentally changed the way software is built and delivered and moved automation and software metrics into spotlight in a way never before. It is fair to say, though, that we are still quite in the beginning with DevOps, and I believe in already few years things may look very, very different than they appear today. Usually when people talk about DevOps, they paint this kind of picture, and I think this tells us the majority of DevOps teams are still taking their baby steps, just like Agile teams some 20 years ago. There is excitement about being special, doing things in a new way, and the luxury of scoping out many of the problems and realities of the surrounding world. A well-built DevOps team can easily outperform a more traditional software team in speed, productivity, and quality, especially if the thing they are building is really independent of the world around, which is the case in many SaaS startups, for example. Unfortunately, the reality does not look like a single DevOps team. It looks like this. The reality is complex, ugly, and constrained by legacy. Real-world architectures are always complex. The software community introduces new innovation and new technologies at such a pace that we will never reach a stage where enterprise architectures were clean, controlled, and consistent. This takes us to an interesting question. What will happen when you start introducing DevOps in this kind of landscape? The IT operations folks, I mean the real ops people, they look at software from a very different perspective. Their focus is to keep the business running. And those business processes these guys worry about, they tend to be partially digital, partially manual. Often they involve multiple information systems, applications, and data assets. And those are rarely created or controlled by a single party alone. Likewise, a corporation that is investing in digitalizing their business often relies on internal development, hired specialists and contract developers, system integrators, and commercial off-the-shelf software. Business, digital development, IT operations, and shop floor operations may thus be interconnected or disconnected in various ways. Now, whether these ops folks like it or not, the dev folks will bring the DevOps culture in IT. But their focus is not usually on making sure that business processes work and still work. The developer's focus is on the delivery of new value fast, in a short cadence. Now let's imagine what happens when a number of dev teams, in-house or external, introduce speed and a short cadence of value delivery in the ops world. And the ops world exposes a complex network of dependencies, legacies, and continuity requirements to the developers. Now, this is DevOps in real world. It's no wonder that the idea of treating every information system as a product instead of thinking of it as a project is rapidly gaining momentum. It may really be necessary to start managing each software asset as a product. This is something that IT and system integration folks need to learn. And maybe it wouldn't hurt if the software development folks could master it better too. More speed is driving our industry, and more speed always means more automation. Automation is, however, just a necessary prerequisite for gaining speed and productivity improvements. Although we have made great advances in automation, we are still at quite rudimentary level and still focusing mostly in accelerating the raw speed of execution more than anything else. Today's test automation typically is little more than automated execution of tests. And likewise, robotic process automation today tends to be little more than automation of office routines. The improvement potential is huge. Let's think about the concept of speed. Usually when we think about speed, we think about doing things fast. Well, you may run fast, but still not reach your destination. It's worthwhile to consider other dimensions too. How fast can you actually get something ready? That is called time to value. How fast can you repeat the cycle of getting something ready and delivered? That is pace. And how fast can you turn when things around you change? That is called reaction speed. Although automation can already vastly improve execution speed and reduce the cost of human work, the real benefits often lay in accelerating the feedback cycle and thus eliminating rework and waiting. The released human capacity serves best in improving areas where automation alone is of little help, such as reacting to changes and exceptions. I encourage everyone to think of all dimensions of speed when you want to accelerate or automate. Testing. I talk a lot about testing because that's the thing I know a lot about. Testing has always been the bottleneck of software. Now that testing is largely automated, it is unfortunately still the bottleneck. In the good old days, we used to think of testing as a sequential process where developers do the unit testing to make sure that their code is ready for publishing or for a pull request. Testers then take the code and look at the software from the perspective of features and business processes, verifying that the software does what it's supposed to do and does not do what it's not supposed to do. Business users participate in the process usually in the very end, doing the final verification, user acceptance testing, and the question they tend to ask is, does this piece of software help me get my job done better than before? I intentionally painted this picture in a waterfall sequence because that's how it used to be. If we want speed and continuous delivery of value, these three roles cannot be separate. They need to collaborate, share test assets, and automate. The developers need to be able to run the tests created by the testers and the business users. If such sharing of assets won't happen, the process will just be too slow. Unfortunately, current testing tools and automation tools do little to enable or facilitate such collaborative efforts. I've been working with software teams, testers, and automation for roughly 30 years now. And my experience tells this is how organizations evolve along their test automation path. Automation efforts almost always start with a clever guy doing miracles with Robot Framework or Selenium. And usually that clever guy will be able to improve quality and productivity rapidly. There are so many low-hanging fruits to be picked. But almost always, any attempt to replicate such success in another team is done by hiring another clever guy, another tool, and the guy will use the tool in another way. This is quite okay as long as the number of teams is small and each team really is independent of each other. But sooner or later, it will be too slow and too expensive to replicate success like this. And the teams will come up with the idea of sharing technology and resources. But that is difficult. I'm not sure if anyone has been able to jump from stage 1 to stage 3. What is missing in between is consistent methodology. There are organizations that have done the transition from individual automation through consistent methodology to shared components, but it always takes time and effort, and do I dare to say, quite a bit of management. And it always results, eventually, in having a centralized test technology team that is there to serve the other teams. And this is often a painful point. Everybody would love to be in a shared test technology team. It's just that the pressure from the other teams can be very high and not always very aligned. This is why those who reach stage 3 seldom stay there. They want to move on. I guess the project to product principle applies here too. Those shared components evolve into some kind of testing platform that has to be managed like a product. And now when this happens, somebody starts to question whether test tool development really is in the core of the business, and would a commercial platform serve the organization better? The question will certainly be asked, and the correct answer depends on who you are, what you do, and how much you want to invest. Now, I bet all of you have advanced test automation. But may I ask, how advanced is it actually? In almost all businesses, test automation still means automated execution of tests. And that is great if we are able to run our regression test suite in 40 minutes instead of 3 days. But does that 40 minutes really help us if we still need to spend a day analyzing and reporting the results and 3 more days maintaining our test scripts? test automation is really still in its early stages and too dependent on few skilled individuals. Again, improvement potential is huge and it's necessary. There's so much we can do in automating test infrastructure, self-healing test cases, automated analysis and reporting, test selection, test data management, you name it. It's practically impossible to manage a fast-paced software effort by your instincts alone. You need to know what is going on, how high the go-live risk would be at the moment, and how far you are from a safe release. Or you also may want to know what levers to turn if you want to improve your performance. Such decision can only be made based on real-time data about the performance of your software process. And such real-time data can serve you and be accessible to you only if the measurement is automated too. In this picture, by the way, I show how we do it in Qentinel Pace. Many of us carry some kind of wristband device that can measure many things of our body and give us advice on how to improve and give a warning when we are not performing. Most companies still make extensive use of data to optimize their sales and marketing efforts. But hey, software, the industry that is enabling smartwatches and marketing automation, is still pretty incompetent and demotivated to measure itself. This will change, like it or not. But I guess there is a way to make us like it. I certainly hope we'd use to apply metrics and KPIs to conduct intellectual, analytical discussions, make better decisions, and continuously improve. Smart people don't need metrics for control and reward. But smart people do measure themselves. If they don't, other people will. Smart people also take us further along the path of automation. In this picture, I have painted two dimensions for broader automation. The scope. We are currently very much still at the scope of auto-automating tasks, while we will be moving towards automating complete processes and automating flows where multiple processes interact, may be driven by external events, and some of those processes may be digital, some of them may be machine performed, some may be still manual human processes. And the other dimension is, of course, how far we go with automation. Most of automation today is about human-assisted software. Software that does things based on programming humans do and corrections humans do when the software fails. Obviously, the next stage will be software-augmented human, switching the roles so that the software is more independent and helps the human complete tasks that may require more intelligence. And maybe someday we will see fully autonomous software. I'm dreaming of test automation solutions that could automatically heal test cases that need to be changed because the system under test changed, for example. Still remember when I said that software that enables more speed is also creating pressure for even more speed. I guess something similar can be seen in this picture. To proceed along this automation path, we need a lot of artificial intelligence. AI can enable things we could never do in automation before. But at the same time, it is introducing a completely new challenge to the software community. The traditional methods of software testing do not apply when the system under test is stochastic rather than deterministic, and if the system under test can change its behavior while it learns. This is one of the biggest challenges for the testing community and the whole automation community in the years to come. Although I speak mostly about test automation, it's fair to admit that the borderlines of different disciplines and applications of automation are gradually coming together. Everyone, of course, focuses on their specialty, but the underlying technologies and principles of software automation are very similar, no matter if you apply them to software or IT automation, or business process automation, or data automation, or whatever. And now, if this all is really happening, as I believe it will, we will see automation platforms quite different from what is available today. This is how I believe things will evolve. We need enabling platforms for making these things happen. If all kinds of exciting functionalities emerge from different sources, as it is likely, there need to be some kind of consistent operation integration platform, probably cloud-based, that enables these innovations to work together and connect to each other. If different people and maybe different software robots need to collaborate, there has to be a platform that enables such collaboration in a problem-free and secure manner. And because we all want to make our living automating things, there has to be some kind of platform that enables us to do business, sell our tech, sell our work, sell our services, and form projects that do not necessarily respect the borderlines of organizations or geographies. And as an icing on the cake, we have open source innovation. It seems that open source communities, such as Robot Framework Foundation, are best equipped to enable accelerated innovation and sharing, although the success of such innovation often requires underlying commercial platforms. This kind of stack or cake will probably emerge during the next few years because the world needs something like this. There's so much innovation happening, and there need to be mechanisms that pull that innovation together, both in terms of technology, services, and business. I want to thank you for patiently listening so far. This is my last page and summarizes the message I want to convey. Anything we do to accelerate things in software will create a need to accelerate even more. Let's remember, speed comes in 4 different dimensions, if not even more. Speed is a virtue only if it's improved together with productivity and quality. And we need a lot of new innovation to really enable all those wonderful things that we are able to envision today. And I'm quite sure there will be wonderful things in the very near future that none of us have imagined yet. Thank you.
Esko, welcome to RoboCon. Esko, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good, great. So let's get to the questions because there's limited time. Jagan wants to know, what are the general metrics that will help understand the automation testing progress?
That's a wonderful question and not easily answered in a short time because it depends on where you are on your automation journey. If you are in the early stages of automation, the most important thing to measure is how fast you can automate a new use case and how well you improve on that, because that helps you understand where your improvement potential is and where you should put your focus at the moment. Then when you move on along your automation path, you need to start paying more attention into how high the degree of automation is, how frequently you are able to run, and especially how long time it takes to maintain your test between test runs, because that's often where the bottleneck resides. I'm happy to discuss more about this theme in the speakers room after this call, or privately in whatever channel, because this is a really, really important, interesting topic.
Absolutely. So we have another question from Manny. Manny wants to know, can you convince or force projects to adopt a DevOps culture, or does the wish need to start from inside the project?
Yeah, it's very hard to force people to do anything. You may force people to pretend they are doing it, but yes, it has to come from inside. And this is one of the things I'm actually a bit worried about, because if you think of software people want to build cool things fast, deliver value fast to the market, and DevOps is it's created for software people. Then there are these real operations folks that actually worry about not breaking the business process, not causing customer dissatisfaction, not causing damage to the business. And now everyone else is pushing new features and new releases in a very short cadence. And these two worlds have to find a way to work together and deliver value, because, well, DevOps won't happen without the ops. And the reality of the ops people is often quite different from the reality of the dev people.
Absolutely. So another question is from Stefan. Stefan wants to know how to get into the mentality of changing your automation from project to products.
Yeah, as I said, it requires a lot of understanding and quite a bit of management too. And based on all I know, it usually happens only through a big enough pain. So as long as you can cope with, let's say, the individual hero type of automation, please stay there. But gradually, when the pain grows high enough, you will have to move. And the only way, well, there may be other ways, but the only way I'm aware that can facilitate that is that you actually start studying how others have done it, what kind of technologies and approaches there are available, so that once the pain grows big enough, you already have an idea on what your solution would look like. I also emphasize that when you start managing something, whatever asset, as a product, you need to have a product owner or product manager who's in charge of the concept. You need to have someone who can architect it to be future-proof. These things won't happen by themselves.
Absolutely. And I love how you want also to think about automation beyond just functional automation. I love the concept. So Adam has a question along these lines on what are your thoughts on DevSecOps? Where does automation fit into security, operations, performance testing, all those other types of non-functional type of automation that can be done?
Yeah, automation is probably even more important in non-functional testing, because many of those things are something humans just can't do. I have never done a human conducting a performance test, for example, or a load test. And now, if you have followed the DevOps space, there is this tendency of putting all kinds of things between dev and ops, like sec, which is hugely important. And that means all of these things have to be automated. And once you start automating a chain from development to QA to security to operations and whatever there is in between, you actually need rather advanced orchestration tools to keep the chains working. And I think it's a good idea to watch the developments at the value stream automation and value stream orchestration tools, because this palette of kind of best of breed technologies won't stay together without such orchestration.
Absolutely. And Esko, I think it was a really important topic. Hopefully people really take it to heart and start implementing in their organizations to change their mindset. So that's all we have time for Q&A. Thanks, Esko.